Hi, we have with us today Ananth Bala, so whom we call A Bala or Bala. So he is the A, as the name says, AB, the ABCD of this industry. He is with the director with Google Cloud Services, and earlier to that, I know him from his AWS days. So we are talking about a person who has been into the larger game of Amazon, Google, and the mass. So when you talk about 140 crores, I think these are the people who understand what is 140 crores, right? So that's where I would like to take Bala's views on the digitization part. How do we go about it? Okay, thank you, Bala, for giving me your time.
Thanks, Ganesh, for having me here.
My pleasure. And of course, during the private talks with you, I see your views, they are magnanimous. And they're very positive and assertive to say that, okay, we are on the right track. So you would agree that our BFSI sector is getting digitized to a great extent. No doubts about it. A lot is happening, and we are fairly digital. KYC, etc., is in place. We can say the services are there. There are WhatsApp and other services happening. Video solutions are in place. Then we have the motor car, which is virtually like completely digital, both onboarding as well as the claim settlement. Now things have changed a lot. But do you think we still have an end-to-end digital? My answer is no.
Yeah.
Okay, where do you think the gap is? What are the hurdles?
Yeah, so great question. And, you've referred to 140 crores, Ganesh. See, first and foremost, I think we've become a mobile first nation. I mean, to a certain extent, right? I mean, if I look at the penetration, if I look at what are people having 2-3 mobile phones, I sense that, the mobile first piece is there. And then I'll tell you an anecdote about a customer, a large NBFC, who just I met a couple of weeks back. The first thing he said was that, and we said that, why don't you have an end-to-end, it will accelerate your process of acquisitions every minute. If you're really looking at, festivals, it can amplify your acquisition significantly. The first thing he said was that unless there is a human interaction, we find delinquencies increasing. Which means there is a straight correlation or an inverse correlation between a phygital interaction and delinquency, which means that if it's a straight-through process, apparently they find that delinquency increase. Okay. Now, when I add this to the fact that they are an NBFC and one of India's largest NBFCs, and they require this, it is also coming from a regulatory perspective of, okay, how do you look at your NPAs? Okay. Because it's a size, it's the NPA problem, and it's the phygital problem. So it all plays one into the other. So if you don't want, you want to keep your NPAs under control, your delinquencies under control, you need to introduce that interaction. If you introduce the interaction, the digital chain breaks. Okay. But at the end of the day, you're profitable enough to, say that, okay, I'm still a large player out there. And I think that essentially sort of captures the essence of why India is a land of paradoxes, right?
So one hand we talk about humanoids, other hand we say we got humans.
Exactly. It is the size of it, right? It is the size of it. And I think that is the first big problem, if I may say so, in terms of, so of course, voice and vernacular and other things are bigger challenges. And as somebody who represents Google, I can tell you that we are working with IIT Chennai, we've given them grants working on 781 dialects across the country. It's a project called Project Vani, which essentially takes care of Indic languages and Indic dialects so that people who could use Google Assistant and other, devices, capabilities on the phone can get translate functionality straight away into each of those dialects as well down the line. So that then what it becomes is essentially...
So it's no longer languages, now we are going into dialects.
It has to be, because India, every 5-10 kilometers, the dialects it also sort of changes, right? So it's not only, yes, of course, the mainstream large languages are the first ones which already Translate has. But now with Google Assistant and, Gemini Live coming into the picture, gradually we'll start seeing a whole lot of agentic assistance coming at a vernacular level in the future, but I'm just giving you a peek of how all of that will help with the digital. But as we say, right, if it is tied to your performance of the organization, then at the end of the day, the non-performing asset is not something which is desirable, right?
So are we saying, so when this gentleman is talking about the delinquency, the risk factor.
Yeah.
Okay. It's first of all nice that CEO is talking risk as a priority more than the business. So, okay, that's a good thing. Obviously, it's a positive sign. But is it a belief according to you? Because there are two ways we can look at it. I may be wrong. One is delinquency is the output. Is delinquency or an NPA or a fraud? Is it because of a digital media? And oh, there's a human being, I will not do it. Is it an output like that, or there is something in between? As we said, truth is always in between. The process which is leading to this output.
I think it's a combination of both, right? For example, I think with vision improving, right, with vision capabilities and AI capabilities improving. For example, on the agri-tech side, if you're doing crop insurance or something like that, I think they wanted us to say, okay, when we try and go and see Gaushala, are we able to see 2 or 3 cows or buffaloes tied up there? Because if whoever is applying for crop insurance, if I can visualize that straight away, that is one of my elements of STP, right? Okay, I know that there is a serious person asking for crop insurance because he has the stuff to do the farming, right? So I think it starts with that. It starts with trust being built in with a vision, and we have not yet gone to the interaction yet. Okay, now if they don't see that, if they don't see that there are 2 cows and 2 bullocks and the piece of land around which the person is stating that he stays or his farm is there, that is when they have to jump in and get to the interaction, which I think, despite it's the size of the country, the population, which sort of sometimes requires that these steps be taken. So you're right that there is more AI, ML being built into the processes to try and reduce the points of interaction. But there are these points of interaction which are still there. So I think it's a journey which we have to take.
Okay, great. So sitting in a Google office, I'm talking about human processes to continue.
I can probably give you an input on that. So where Google believes and Google Cloud believes is that there will be agents, but those agents will be of 6 types. So you'll have a customer agent, which essentially is if you can capture the last domain of voice, because voice has sentiment, voice has an emotion, voice has a lot of things. If you can capture the last sentiment, voice very well, you can replace a human agent. Today, organizations already, if you don't want to hear something and you just keep the call or disconnect the call, or if you really don't even listen to it, they've already replaced that with agents because they've understood that agents will listen. I mean, they just keep calling 10 million people and get no's and move on. The human agent's time is not getting wasted there, right? So people have already started doing that. By the way, if some sales happen, then that's all because of the agent. If there's somebody who's still listening to the agent and signing up for something, then that's revenue, really accredited to the organization without any human intervention. That's straight bottom line profitability, top line profitability, everything out there, right? So we see that customer agents will be there, employee agents, which is what is more important today, because I believe that the agentic infusion comes in with helping an employee do their job better. So if their productivity can be improved, instead of 10 calls, which could be 5 good, 5 bad, if they can do 7 good calls, if they can understand the customer sentiment and answer properly, that improves the productivity. So I think efficiency improvement is number 1. Revenue is come down to number 2 because real revenue is still not very clear with GenAI yet. Though in these cases, as I said, right, out of 10 million calls, if say 500,000 people do sign up for something, that is net revenue, net profit, right? So that's what we see. So there's a customer agent, there's an employee agent, there are creative agents. So marketing, you can actually prepare a lot of marketing stuff which on the fly. You can already see that with Canva. You can see that with a whole lot of other things. And then you have code agents. So people who are writing code, and code can be written by, you can just write the framework and then you can apply the code check. It can clean code, you can correct code, you can build code, you can convert code, you can do all of that already. Then there is data. You can actually have data agents, to pull the right data sets out. You can just write and it will give you the right data sets which you require, because data is informing everything, including the product. Then you have security code, which means that, if the security needs to be checked, if you want to just check, can you let me know the number of, denial of service? which has happened in the last 1 month, or attacks which happened in the last month. So you can get an answer through GenAI itself. Common practitioners in the IT setup can actually ask that. So these are the types of agents which we see as sort of building. So we build the building blocks for that, and customers can actually build.
So can we say it's technically like a spreadsheet movement? So spreadsheet first starts with saying that you don't need to create formulas. Basic things are taken care of. If you understand little bit of the coding part when we say, then you can just use a basic formula. I can do the backend activity for you.
Absolutely. So what we are talking about is not models. I'll tell you why. Models will be X will be better today, Y will be better tomorrow, X dash will be better the next day.
Right.
Correct. What we are saying is we will give you a platform called as Vertex AI, which is a overall GenAI platform, which will have third-party models as well. So if you want a Facebook Llama model, you'll have it with us. If you want Anthropic from Claude, you'll have it from us. If you want Gemini, you'll have that from us as well. And then we give you a model builder framework. We also give you an agent builder framework. So the models, if nobody wants to use anything else, if you want to build your own agent, you can build your own agent with the out-of-the-box tools and interaction with GitHub and other things like that. If you want building a model on your own, a smaller language model on your own, we'll offer you the functionality for that as well. Given that, we give you the building block. Of course, the underlying infrastructure I'm not talking about because that's our own TPUs, which are significantly, we are invested in much ahead before NVIDIA came in. Of course, we offer GPUs as well. But the TPU allows us to offer it at prices which are much better off than the GPU one. So in that sense,
So I was actually thinking GenAI may increase the cost at times unless we get the efficiencies in place.
our costs have gone down in the different direction. If you actually observe the cost of our usage of our models in terms of the number of prompts, they have significantly gone down. In some cases, almost like 400x.
Oh.
So that's where we see the world going towards building agents, and then gradually the bigger organizations building their own models.
So now coming to this piece, like we agree that there is a digital world allowed. Then you are saying that there is a requirement of risks. But that apart, I believe there are lots of other technical tools available. Okay, for example, if I want to know about a company, let's say, okay, retail is easier. Again, in a retail, salaried class is the most easiest one.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but still, I never understood why do they have to ask the bank statement from a salaried class. Okay, trust factor, as you say. So, okay, don't give me your ITR, you can give me your payslip. Ultimately, the second form of it. Or you give me a bank statement, I'll check whether 3 credits are there. Okay. Then for that, now we have got the account aggregator who says, I will give you that. The question is, okay, why do we need that? One, because there are other sources. The India OpenStack is anyway, India Stack is available. So, like, my favorite thing is when I open up a current account, I have the best experience of absolutely non-digital experience. So the banker will ask me, the best of banks, don't ask me which names, okay, rank number 1, 2, 3, 4, whichever. They will say, okay, I'll come down because if you're a wealth customer, they'll come to your house. Okay, they are nice to you, or else you have to go to that place. Then I'll say, boss, they'll give you a list. I want a MOA, I want a AOA, I want your GST, I want a PAN. I'll email it to them. I thought it's done. Okay, I am already your customer. I am already a wealth customer. You are getting it as a CRN from the same ID.
Yeah.
But then, I don't know, the trust factor comes into picture. The email ID is not, the registered email ID is no longer trustworthy. But for other transaction of service, it is trustworthy. Okay. Then the guy comes with a printout of all those things and asks me to sign it. And then there's a beautiful stamp on it, self-attestation. Where did I give you this document from? The MCA doesn't give me papers. It mails to me. And I forwarded the same thing MCA administrator mailed to you from my official ID. It's not accepted. So we are creating a digital data into an electronic data by emailing. Then you are making it physical again. Then you're making it super physical by making a stamp and signature. Okay, that's a super physical, I would like to call it. And you will ask me to authorize a data which is given by MCA. That means the Ministry of Corporate Affairs is lesser relevant than me. I have to certify that this document is there because I can be held liable. And then they will put it back into the system and the ops team will be sitting there. They'll say, boss, workflow mein hai nahi. Workflow mein to OCR karke aayega, scanning karke aayega. Again, they will do a scanning of that document and then the workflow will start working. Then it will sit in some reservoir and then there will be a project to make it electronic, because now it is in a scanned image mode, or RTF or TIFF or whatever. उसको फिर digital करेंगे, and then they will say now let's make different APIs to read this data. So is it really required? I may sound negative, but the question is, we are already so ahead, we are taking the process back.
Okay, so I think the vision which Dr. Nandan Nilekani had, or Mr. Nandan Nilekani had, and the UIDI, Aadhaar, India Stat, the DPI has been phenomenal. I mean, it's already
Absolutely.
it's leapfrogged, the backend protocol and whatever got written, leapfrogged a lot of the developed world in that sense, right? Compared to any other larger developer, I think we are far ahead on that. What has happened is, all organizationally we are still the same as other first world countries or whichever world countries, right? The fact that there are processes which you end up automating the processes, but not enough probably thought has been given to is the process itself required. So I'll give you an example, right? RBI recently did a survey. It said that 10% of their IT budget, only 10%, is allocated to emerging technologies. It came in the Mint paper a few days back, right? So, what are the emerging technologies? AI, ML, obviously one of them. Gen AI is a subset of that. Cloud computing, I think they're starting to do because of KYC, risk management, analytics, and things like that. Cyber security, one of the biggest, right? Fraud management at a personal level, scamming, all of that, whatever is happening. The question is that if you're going to have only 10% of your budget on that, then first is even automation within your existing processes is going to be a challenge. Questioning the process itself is going to be very different. That is something which probably nobody is questioning, because these are all huge organizations which are there, right? Which essentially take time to move. And why do you have this situation of, okay, we have elements of it available everywhere in a digital form, yet we fall back into the physical side of things because somebody's put the process in place that this is how it has to be done. So fully end-to-end digital will require innovation which can be provided by startups, but then there is a very big element called trust, correct? And the trust is with the brands. The public sector banks, the larger banks will have the trust, right? The smaller, startups might not have that trust, right? So I think that trust is a very important element of this entire piece which is there. And I'll give you an example, right? If you take consumer banking from one of the private banks, one of the large private banks, I think you can do facial recognition and move on, doesn't it? But if you go into some of the larger public sector banks, they will give you a captcha, then there is a password, then there is a transaction password, correct? So why all of this is in the name of security and probably the right thing where they are, they need to evolve to a stage where they say, okay, facial recognition given by UIDI, 13 points, iris, I mean, everything's taken care of by Aadhaar already, right? And then, you still have to do some of these things, is the fact that the modernization of the platform.
So even Google faces problems dealing with PSUs. And the problem is then getting into the system.
Yeah, so obviously the challenge out in each of these situations is there a modernization available at every level? When I say every level, we are talking of app, we are talking of data, we are talking of infrastructure, all three. Correct. Now at an app level, while we open source Kubernetes because it was our own internal tool which was there, and today Kubernetes is all pervasive, whether you take across computing platforms or even applications which are built. Containerization is like the minimum standard which organizations have as far as a modern application is concerned. Now, right after you containerize it, you obviously will have a underlying infrastructure which is there. Now, infrastructure resiliency, I think, becomes very, very important from a network perspective, from a storage perspective. I think that's where the larger hyperscalers all have multiple zones available, multiple zones beyond. I mean, seismic locations different. Like ours is in Mumbai and Delhi, different seismic locations. The third is from our experience of Google, right? When we built on like Gmail, you can access Gmail anywhere in the world, for example, right? And it will give you the same performance wherever. It's not like it will be slow in New York compared to faster in India or vice versa. Right? That happens because our technology is based on distributed computing, and the scale. So take YouTube, take Maps, take Search, take any of those Google products which are big and large ones. All of them have more than 2 billion users. 9 of them have 2 billion users. Now, I'm being used at a very regular mechanism, right? So when you look at those, we included elements of that, and one thing which is important is what we call as SRE, which is Site Resiliency Engineering, which to ensure is that we assume things will break. And so we build in tolerance at the software level, at the design level, at the security level to ensure that it will not break. And that's why you have everything running 24/7 up all the time. Is that this is a very important element. And when you build something at scale like this, it has to have SRE elements which are there. The third piece which I come, as I said, is the design. We just spoke about facial recognition, right? So you have DPI, which is absolutely fabulous. You have, you take care of design, great. But then if you have to use health insurance and then you design for seamless integration of all the APIs, you don't have public health records. Health records are available with each organization, each hospital chain, everything. But Ayushman Bharat is sort of an initiative which is starting to get some of the data points at a singular level, and again, tag to DigiLocker and all of those things. I sense it's a journey again. And in between making available all these individual elements, making available all these public APIs, making for the common good, for the greater good, and then you also need to have organizations for profit. I think the processes comes away.
And again, processes. For example, in the early 90s, PAN was supposed to be during my initial CA days, we thought PAN had come down. That's going to be the unique ID for our country. That's the way it was portrayed. Then the Aadhaar took its own time. Now Aadhaar is fairly in place, but still there are, whatever reason there are challenges are there. Now for Ayushman Bharat, you said there's an Aadhaar number separately. So there are too many numbers coming in. So there is nothing like a CRN. Okay, this is one
social security number.
Yeah, so one SSN you can say.
Yeah.
So in India we are more used to CR, the customer relationship number. So there is nothing like that at a country level. Probably is that causing a problem according to you? In a way, too many unique codes as a process problem.
It is, and I think it's again the size and the scale. To be honest with you, I think that is where the problem is, right? See, if this was a 300 million population country, I'm sensing that you could easily administer that through a focal point called CRN or SSN, and then give it to respective services to integrate. It becomes easier. The moment you do it for 140 crore people, I think each one of them is big enough to be independent on their own.
You will still say that 34 billion US would be something smaller with respect to this process, or China, which is almost equal. Is it different in China?
See, I think that there is this view of consent, which is extremely important out here, right? See, in the US and in the Europe, half of the processes go with the fact that there is a privacy and a consent requirement, which is highest level.
Okay.
I would believe in India and in China, sometimes we don't take privacy so seriously, but we need to take it so seriously, because if you're going to even give your account aggregator stuff out there, it requires your consent. So all of this information, even your
PPTP, that is likely to change, right?
Exactly. So I think we are getting around to the sovereignty, localization requirements, PPTP requirements, and a framework which allows things via consent, which my belief is will accelerate everything. I mean, account aggregator could be one, but then public health records, because they say, okay, this is your public health record, can we share it with the central registry? Just hypothetically. And if there is a consent for that, then it no longer remains that hospital chain's data point, right?
But now the problem again would be if the consent is expected for every transaction.
Yeah.
And very explicit, not implicit. So like the challenge the account aggregator is facing today. People are not comfortable, not sure.
Yeah.
It's not picking up the way it was expected to pick up. So with that, do you expect that as the problem? Consent itself can be a problem because again, 140 crores different level of thinking, intellectual levels are also changing.
Yeah, so I think consent in an informed, educated, literate society is different from consent in a evolving and developing society. right? Very different. I mean, for here you'll have to probably explain the meaning of consent itself in the first place. They might not even know that the data is private. I'm saying that that's the education piece which is there. I also believe that it's the evolution of the organizations. For example, the largest public sector organizations, for them to even allow account aggregation has been a mental challenge, right? I mean, for them to say, okay, let let us open up the account aggregators and use that data and cross sell and upsell. Okay, rather than taking a view that why should we allow that even integration of account aggregator, because I think our data is our data. Correct. So I think
Account aggregators don't have data. They're just the consent managers.
No, I'm referring to the custodians of the data, which is the banks or whoever it is. Right?
I know.
Now that is a mindset which probably will have to change as the as we say, this demography of this country is heavily viewed towards the youth and heavily viewed towards my sense is, as people become more and more knowledgeable about the consent they are providing, it will become better and the data will become better, because I am sensing that eventually, even if you look at banks, even if you look at insurance institutions, data is going to inform a lot of the product roadmaps in the future. So it's not about IRDA said, okay, develop a product is there, and there are people to sell and make commissions. I think, yes, that is the way the business has grown, but I think data is going to become the more important piece rather than the core banking app or the core insurance app, because data will tell you what you need and what I need. So I sense that the pivot towards data will lead to more interesting hyper-personalized products rather than a singular product or a couple of products which are trying to be sold. And if I use the word peddled, which I think is what the global thing is going through. But we also see that the systemically important organizations, I think they are spending a lot more on these things. Because I think it's a brand, and then the trust they have in the people, they do have more data as well. So I think we see them investing a lot in these things.
Now, since you're on the investing piece, in fact, I got one question on this.
Sure.
Basically, as you rightly said, the bigger players are investing money. Even in the PSU side, also to be fair, they are also investing money. So when somebody invests heavily in technology, okay, so by the time the technology goes live, the technology gets outdated.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, obviously, the CEO cannot go back to the board and say, boss, now I need to upgrade it. बोले यार अभी तो किया तो नहीं है. So then what happens is, whatever technology you have, which you believe is updated, okay, you already have one legacy behind you of some database. I'm not talking about system to hai. System is one problem. You've got a database in a legacy mode. Then you already updated a technology and some intermediate part is into that piece. The processes are there. Now most of the processes are tending towards that technology and something new has come. Okay. Then a COVID comes into picture. Then again the processes have to undergo a change 360 degrees. So in that situation, so you are in 2025 or 24 talking to a 2022 system, talking to a 2020 system and 2005 system also. Right. And then there is a middleware talking to hundreds of Gen AIs and AIs, etc. So the investment is going for a toss. Processes are in different directions. So there's a challenge which BFSI actually faces. So is there a solution for it technologically?
Yeah. So today, what we see is a lot of organizations have tried, and the core of this is data. If you look at it, right, ultimately how data gets handled is most important for even something as futuristic as Gen AI, right? In the sense that if Gen AI has to be meaningful, it has to work on the right set of data. I think a lot of organizations have struggled to get data in one place, to be honest. And therefore, some of them have decided that, okay, maybe I will break it into payments data. I will break it into retail data. I will break it into other sets of data, and then at least have swim lanes of data points from where at least let me have the coherence of data here to sense that there are patterns here which I can then give hyper personalization to the customer. The utopian concept of having all the data in one place, I think, is still challenging because of organizational processes, organizational structures, which I think often are, I would say, cross purposes with each other, but they are not like a fishbowl all going in the same direction, so that everyone can take benefit of the other person's effort and other person's directions as far as, or the data sets or whatever is concerned. So I think the biggest challenge is getting the data in one place. I think that is the first big thing. I would believe that there is enough technology to put wrappers around legacy architectures. There is enough technology to modernize architectures. Organizational processes and the way that data is often represents the two biggest challenges for organizations to modernize. And that is a journey which is going to take time. Now, why have we arrived here? Simply because the industry we are talking about are regulated. Because there is this additional layer of scrutiny around risk, around operational risk, around business risk, and all those things. You put layers around that, and therefore they become, if I may use the word, unwieldy or big or whatever. Right? Now, and that's the primary reason why I think you will always have the connection to existing systems or older systems. And wrappers are there as an intermediate piece. I believe that tokenization, which I don't know whether you heard the talk by Anantharaman Balakrishnan at the Global FinTech Festival. So he coined a term called the Finternet, which he spoke about the fact that there will be a separate regulatory mechanism system, and then there will be the innovation which will be available, right, at an innovation layer. That will be decentralized, whereas the regulatory side one will be centralized. And he talked about tokenization of every asset. Now, whether it is a ULIP, whether it is a mutual fund, whether it is a real estate, whether it is an art painting, whatever it is, whatever you are monetizing, tokenizing the asset, making it available at the central level, at the register, and then if you are selling it to somebody, you can detokenize it. The other person can detokenize it.
Is it on lines of blockchain? Maybe the earlier thought process?
It is on the basis of a ledger in that sense. But what it does is, because it is immutable, I think the fact that, it is cryptography and immutability of the chain, which is believed to override this piece. And when you said that, can I upgrade my car by putting in a new engine? It's exactly what your question was. I believe this will allow you the framework to use your existing systems with the new piece, but making them work forward at the same time, making them work faster.
You will need propellers in any case.
You will need. It's very clear that you. So the question is, can it be uniform today, which is not the case today, right? I mean, if you look at assets, yes, land records have been digitized, right? And can they be tokenized? That's probably the next thing the government is also trying to look at. So once you have those pieces in place, then it becomes easier to integrate those ledgers. So I think that's where we see it going. It's an interesting presentation. You can have a look at it.
So when you spoke about the land records, and some time back you spoke about the crop insurance.
Correct.
So when we talk about this officially on paper or economic point of view, not the economical revenue or contribution point of view, India is 60% or more supposed to be agricultural revenue.
Correct.
It's agriculture, not agricultural revenue. The revenue doesn't come. The economics is not. We are not an agrarian economy. So it's a huge agricultural based society, you can say, whatever be the reason. We don't want to go into that part of it. Now, then there are laws protecting that particular sector, saying that okay, you don't need income tax, etc., etc. So the banks and the insurance companies have a tough time having a documentation for a credit underwriting, right? So credit underwriting of crops or anything, any agri product, or the health or the life, okay, or a loan, whichever you say. So technically, we have a situation where a large population is into this sector and digitization is a challenge, and anyway they form in the tier 2 and tier 3. Okay, that's the third part of the problem. Of course, now we have got the satellite images, etc. coming up. Then there are, I understand, there are better applications which can say that this much gunta of land can give you this much quintals of this particular crop output. And now the interesting part is, because of the inorganically generated, or the crop patterns, okay, not the organic part. Suddenly you realize that iska maximum output is 100 quintals, but he sold 1000 quintals out of it, because it is genetically designed, or whatever you can say, genetically created and all inorganically. So now that is also not in proportion. So technically we have a meter which can say what's the maximum output, but there is another system which has outbeaten that as well. So how do we put all these in place and get a fair understanding is also कैसे digitize कर सकते हैं?
So,
You can't expect a law on this.
yeah, absolutely. So, maybe I can share a list of. So, we've actually built up a agri stack. In that sense, okay,
Yeah.
working with the Ministry of Agriculture, and I'll share more details about it. I don't have it right away,
Fair.
but I'll share it with you. It allows you. Obviously, it's based on the DPI piece, so everything is open source, and it connects to the Google Maps search side of things. It connects to the location maps. So using search, which is maps, using Google Earth Engine. So what we have done is we have used a few of our assets and built a stack which can pinpoint with a lot of accuracy the location of the farm or the farmer's house or whatever it is. Now I think that is the technology piece. The larger piece is, can you sell a crop insurance and a life insurance plan to the same farm? Now, I think that is to be solved regulatorily, if I were to use a word, because you don't have enough information about that person other than the transaction there.
Exactly.
Now, maybe with Bima Vista, maybe if they really get going into the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities and towns, and if they were to reach, as we said, it's no longer a digital transaction, but even through phygital means, right? Even through Bima, the agents which they plan to take the, what do they call it? Bima.
One is Bima Vista and
No, the ladies who are being trained to really go and enable the Bima Sugam
Bima Sugam is the platform. Yeah.
platform, but selling the insurance is the singular composite insurance which they are planning, right? Healthcare plus crop plus life insurance sort of a thing. I think that's the plan they have essentially to really take it. The question is, you can make a product available with the blessings of the regulator. The question is administering it.
Not only administering, who's going to own it?
Exactly. So that's the point. So administering it and owning it, and the cost of administering it. At the end of the day, you're going to have a cost which is, it is the claim. XYZ is the claim, whether it's for 2 rupees or 200 rupees or 2000 rupees, right? You have a cost for the claim. So I think that is the challenge which I see. If there is a vision for all 2047 insurance, which is there. My sense is there will have to be a 90-10 piece, right? 90% digital, 10% digital.
So we had physical digital, then it became phygital. So now we can call it digital.
Yeah.
So more of digital and less of physical.
Yeah, but I think regulatorily, ULIPs was one version of a composite product. But you still don't have a savings account and a credit card, just hypothetically saying, right? You still treat that as two different businesses. Likewise, in insurance, because you have different, health insurance is one, life insurance is another body. You have this challenge of, different arms of insurance being regulated.
That should be solved probably. But like savings and credit card, the difference is one is an asset, one is a liability.
Correct, exactly, I understand. But I'm saying a composite product which
Correct.
can appeal to the farmer because he or she knows that it is for their benefit, right? I think the awareness of it, as I said, the evolution of it, I think is the journey.
Well, I'm talking something which is very close to my heart. When I talk about it, many people find me crazy. They are saying it's out of box, hoega nahi. I ask a simple question like, can we underwrite it as Bala is one nucleus for me, can I underwrite Bala? And it's when I look at him, I should be able to underwrite him his health, his life, his assets. Very simple. Because ultimately when you go for a car is an asset, but car ka background is you. So your health is you, your life is you, your credit is also you. So I'm looking at you, financial underwriting में कर ही रहा हूँ for whatever reasons. But even if I have to give you a loan for education, I'm doing a financial underwriting. Same financial underwriting is applicable to life insurance.
Yeah.
Medical के लिए करना, life and health, दोनों similar ही है. Only one is mortality, one is morbidity. So can I underwrite you as one unit? Okay. So this is something which, when I was talking to Sandeep Bakshi long back in a personal thing, so he said we should and we can. Very few people come up with that saying that we can do this. So ask Google, what do you think?
See, that's where it is, right? So we are doing a lot of research, right? And again, we don't claim to be a health company or whatever, but we do a lot of research in these areas. I'll give you an example. You saw the recent Nobel Peace being won by Google DeepMind, leaders, right? Yes. So Demis Hassabis won the Nobel Peace Prize for chemistry, right? And the reason they won it is because the amino acid sequence which goes into making proteins and the interaction of those protein molecules and understanding the folding of the protein structure and their unfolding and what causes certain diseases, for example, COVID. Or they're all proteins. Even the COVID piece was a protein, right, at the end of the day. So there are 2 million scientists who are now working on this AlphaFold 3 project of ours, using our model around that, AI models around that. So we intend making a lot of that. So we have what is called as a med LLM. So we work with Mayo Clinic and with the consent of the data sets. Early diagnostics, the first level diagnostics. Today Prudential actually doesn't consent a person. They go straight and ask for the
Prudential
Malaysia and Vietnam.
And Vietnam.
In 2 countries we have sort of rolled it out. So we see that there is a lot of interest around simple things like using retinopathy to detect diabetes. So blindness is caused over a period of time for people with high sugar levels and diabetes. So how can we use retinopathy to detect that much earlier? So there's a lot. So the fact that AI with its compute power now and the possibilities which we have in Gen AI makes it humongously possible for looking at. I mean, this is infinite. The possibilities we have here is absolutely infinite. And I'm not talking about agentic stuff, which eventually will solve some of our day-to-day problems. But the back-end research.
The cost, will it be affordable from an insurance point of view? Because a friend of mine is the scientist who's working with IBM on this piece, where he was telling me 2 years back, in fact, he was telling me they're working on a project where if I want the IBM solution, which will be there available, let's say on a laptop, and it could be somewhere in Germany, the server, and it's talking to you in India, from the camera, it can do a complete diagnosis for you, and it can give you the neuropathic, the neurological disorders as well. So it can, apart from the basic biometrics of BP, diabetes, sukari, it can give you your kidney problems, etc. in a span of 2 or 3 minutes, complete diagnosis. But then, when I was talking to him, I realized that this, even if it comes into the existence, but can an insurance company afford it? Can it roll it across the lakhs of customers, and who will bear the cost? Because if an insurance company to bear it, the premiums will be significantly high, and that too with only 10 or 15% of the cases undergoing medical examination. So this is going to replace the medical cost, let's say.
Correct.
Will it be feasible, specifically in a country like India where medical diagnostics is not very costly?
Yeah, so I think there are 2 phases to this. One phase is that the scientific discoveries and can they be expedited enough to solve, or detect health problems significantly ahead. That is number one, right? Which means you're literally talking about increasing life expectancy, where I think that there is a lot of research which we are able to enable, in that sense, to bring that to the fore, to the benefit of the medical fraternity, so to say, right? That is one. Your aspect about will it be price performance piece of it, right? Will it be so I believe that if you look at even Gen AI and the cost of using AI, that itself in the last 1 year has come down significantly. In some cases, straight away, 90x, 90%, 400x. These have been the prices at which the Gen AI prompts have come. So I sense that the more we democratize Gen AI, I'm sensing that we will definitely have much work. See, a lot of it is also to do with how it is architected. And the fact that if you have the right architecture, if you have the scale, like the India scale we are talking about, and India has always been frugal. And I think we also have always said that if it works in India, Google Pay today is a 300 million company, a 300 million user company. We said if it works in India, it will work elsewhere in the world.
We can say frugal and brutal.
But the fact that we were able to create that, Google. I'll give you an example. Like when Google Pay did a survey, and this is just verbally I can say that. When Google Pay did a survey, more people were worried about loss of a telephone connectivity than actually the fraud. Because for them, the connectivity is more important for them to keep in touch with their, people, closest people or whatever. And this is the survey they did quite some time, just very recently, about maybe a year back. For them, the fraud piece was, I can keep the fraud out, I can go and visit the bank. But if I lose connectivity, who do I go to? Where do I go? Or the worry about a transaction not finishing because of the network connectivity law seem to be a bigger worry in their minds than the fraud.
Actually, that honestly, now when I look back, it's true. Many shops suddenly they say यहाँ पे network नहीं होगा, आपका कौन सा service provider है? यहाँ पे इसका network कम है.
Exactly.
So in a city like Bombay, this can happen.
Yeah. So I think the fact that voice vernacular is going to play a very important part, and I think just a simple example, right? When you speak about fraud and fraud around deaths and all, I'm just saying that if you capture a person's voice sample at any stage, before you pass away or whatever it is, and voice can change, of course, but if you can capture a voice sample and keep it for records, and tomorrow somebody is impersonating and coming up with a claim, whatever inside somebody, not everybody passes away from the hospital. So you can devise mechanisms to connect to the hospital bed, and so the heartbeat has stopped, 15 minutes has stopped, okay, declare the person gone. I'm just saying, you can devise those mechanisms. What if somebody passes away by not being on the hospital bed?
Which is majority.
Right? So I'm just saying that I'm sure there will be a way where the vernacular and the voice will play a more meaningful mechanism in identifying this problem. Because whoever is the person who's impersonating, yes, unless they are a mimicry artist.
That's my question. I myself am a mimicry artist.
I know, but frankly speaking, that's
but that's a bigger risk today, isn't it? Like today, the digital fraud which are happening on the banking side, it's more of the voice being used very, very badly, and it's at a large scale. Because somebody is already recorded your voice in India. Half of the people, your phone mein your voice is getting recorded without any permission being sought. Everybody is downloading an app, and that app itself is made in China probably.
Malicious.
Yeah, somebody is having all those voices with them, right? And it's getting mapped because it's on a phone, so it's knowing which account, which call we have made, and that is also so technically without my knowledge, without me giving consent, my voice is on some phone. That guy would have recorded for whatever purpose, but the company just made the app is actually knowing whose phone number it is and what it is. So that's a risk we're already running. So won't it? That's already a problem. So my question to you actually would have been, won't there be a new type of fraud on that? You gave me a reverse answer saying that can be used. It's very interesting.
No. When I say that can be used, I'm saying the information behind that. When you distill it from an AI perspective, it probably will identify patterns from a vernacular perspective, because you're using English, you're using only Hindi, you're using only English, you're using Tamil or whatever. I'm just saying from a perspective of the person's native dialect. Okay, if you are able to,
won't it be too short? It's a discussion in itself, because a person who can
no, I'm just saying
manage a voice. Yeah,
I'm just saying it's one of the mechanisms. See, there are 10 mechanisms to identify. I give you the base
but it's a very interesting perspective that voice can also be.
When you say Aadhaar, and Aadhaar captures iris, and after the person passes away, the eyes are closed. Just I'm saying hypothetically, right? So if you want to even take the visual recognition of the person, and then with the eyes are closed, you still have the nose and other data points which are there in the other capture. That's
true.
So I'm saying voice is one of the mechanisms. Right now, with AI coming into the picture, you can detect those small nuances or whatever it is, which if it is there in a bank, in a voice bank or what we call it, I'm just saying hypothetically.
It's interesting.
That could be one of the ways to even beat these frauds. I'm just saying, that's just one.
As it is, insurance is a catch me if you can.
Yeah. So that's where I believe that there is a possibility of AI playing a much bigger role beyond facial recognition, beyond a lot of things into these areas.
I don't know, Bala, are you aware? The insurance scams which happen. Okay, I'm not talking about the digital scams or the telephonic scams are a different scale. The insurance death scams, accidental deaths or hospitalization deaths or whatever, health or accident or life, whichever you say. The scams which are done with gangs, it's thousands of crores.
Yeah.
It's huge. Okay, and it's not completely documented because it's only whoever is caught. And then the second problem is it's a gamble, which is what I've been arguing for a long time with the regulators and I've spoken to the ministries and so on. But okay, saying that, boss, if you have got sections of only cheating, then section 419, 420, etc. जो है, आज का पूरा moving on, 420. Even today, the new laws also talk about that. Okay, the new laws may have captured certain parts of crime, cyber crime, etc. But the fact is, if you're caught doing a financial crime, if I make a loss, then there's a cheating complaint which I have to put and the cheating section applies. But you're doing it as a pattern on thousands of people. There is no law which can hold you responsible unless the loss has been incurred and identified and fined.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is why it's a bigger gamble. Saying, kya hoga? If I'm caught, nothing is going to happen. I'll just lose my basic investment. It's like a small investment. So that's a separate problem. So it runs into huge crores, and probably the NBFC which you said could also be because when we are talking technology, the fraudsters are also talking technology. We have got hundreds of limitations using a technology, consent law, ye law, wo law, compliance and all. That guy has no restrictions.
Yeah.
He can do whatever he wants to do. So with that, the catch me if you can thing which is looking at and the problems which you are facing. Okay, like we have got a favorite OTP as a control mechanism in the country. Okay, which is good to have, but then it is not a real because even after that, all the frauds are mobile number related. Okay, and one of the things which I critically always talk about, India is the largest country in terms of population in the world. Probably we are the only country which doesn't have a SIM card at the airport. Any other country, if you go, you can buy a SIM card, right? So we have got the fears of terrorism, etc. And India is a country where maximum fraud SIM cards are sold. So both are a reality. On one hand, we talk data security, and on the other hand, we have got maximum SIM card frauds, which is not only in India. Indian SIM cards are creating problems in US and Canada today. So, of course, this is not something which I'm telling is nay or something for you. Something which you can think of, something is working on this. Voice was a new thing which I heard of. So, anything which you can say it can change the game.
So, we work very closely and we have a service available for one of the leading banks in the world called HSBC, where we detect anomaly patterns, we detect false positives on anti-money laundering. So we call it AML, and we have a offering called an AML AI. It's anti-money laundering AI API, which is you can call upon it for every transaction. It is available in all the larger regions in the world. It is available in India also for the larger global organization which we say. The challenge in India is the size of the transaction and the price points we work upon, right? So we are working on the price points for it because here the volumes will be higher. Elsewhere, the value of the transaction will be bigger and the volumes will be lesser. In India, the value of the transaction will be small but it will be in millions, right? As you say. So we are working on that. So we call it an AML AI. If you go and Google it out, you can find it out. It's called AML AI from Google.
Which country?
So HSBC uses it. Obviously, UK it uses in Hong Kong it uses. They use it in India as well. The service is available for HSBC in India as well. But obviously, the scale at which we are talking about in terms of the transaction number is very high. Okay, right. It is the size of the transaction might be much smaller, but as you rightly said, but the transaction. So we already have that. So we are, and I think we are building upon that. And this is traditional AI. We are not even talking about Gen AI. I'm talking about traditional AI. So now if you put that into patterns and models, the data code, data agent which I spoke about, that can identify some of these anomalies and keep telling you some of these anomalies as well.
One last question to you on this, since you're on this piece. You have been with AWS in the past, which was again large scale size global. Now you are with Google, it's again large scale, heavy mass, you can say. You are at a mass scale as well, at a lowest level, you can say you're reaching. So at Google, of course, there's a lot of research happening. right? So, and our regulator, you must have heard about talking about 2047. So, where do you think whatever research you're working on or whatever ideas are, okay, obviously you're thinking maybe 10 steps ahead of what we are thinking. Where do you think banking and the insurance sector will be, or what is it that likely to be different? And if we have to achieve the 2047 thing, how or what steps are needed, or what can be different to achieve that? Can we be 100% insured? Okay. And how can the banking and insurance industry change? For example, I've been talking to a few of my clients, and when I talk to them, I said, the whatever we have been doing is we are just changing the products today. Wrappers change हो रहा है, same product in different forms. Probably what we need, okay, is something like an insurance being sold in a chroma shop, like or a big bazaar, which of course big future did try during the big bazaar days, but probably too early it could have been.
Sachet insurance.
So sachet insurance. So that is something which will be there. General insurance side is slightly happening. The travel insurance piece and all have picked up slowly, but the bigger piece is still there. Maybe so. And as you said some time back, it has data will decide the product. Okay, I think that is I strongly believe in that, which means that everything has to be customized, tailor products. So existing bouquet of products, 40 products at the same time being live. Okay. So, what are your views on this? On the two aspects, so future as well as and how do you achieve the 2047 goal?
Yeah, so I think the first and foremost piece is the research is going to be on the basis of data which is available with us, number one, right? I mean, whatever research you do to even put the hypothesis and prove the hypothesis is on the basis of data which you have. So I'll just take a hypothetical example, right? I use Google Play. I also use search. I also use Google Maps. I also use YouTube. Okay, I use Gmail. Okay? And Google has my consent about all these 5 products, for example. So if I allow Google, or if I allow that, okay, please mix and merge and first party data with third party data, usage is allowed. Allowed in the sense the organizations are ready to say, yes, I want to integrate my own personal data with what is available as a cohort. In Thane, 28-year-old, 35-year-olds are all buying this sort of insurance, for example, are all buying 4x4s, which requires, say, insurance, or which requires less insurance, or whatever it is. Merging that data will form patterns, which is why I go back to that data being the
Oil.
main. I'm not saying it is oil because it is going to throw new patterns. It is going to throw different patterns, and I think that will also inform segments like insurance, which is only 3 to 4% penetrated, right? At the end of the day, and rather than products being sold, I think this data being the fulcrum of whatever, whether it's at the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 composite insurance offering, or whether you're selling a high-end insurance product to somebody in Verso or whatever. I think that information availability plus the public data sets. So if you're public, so we keep opening on data sets as well. So the public data sets around health, around other parameters, all of that mixed together is going to form the basis of how we can get that insurance for all. The end access for a mobile phone will be there. That penetration has been taken care of, right? The use of it in the right place with the public data sets and whatever intelligence we can provide with voice, vernacular. It's all a heady mix of all of this. I think it's the data, the voice, the vernacular, the location, the financial, ability. But all of that information will be available, right? At the end of the day, mixing all of that and saying that, it's not easy to get a score. But I'm just saying, if you mix all of that and still come up with your own analytics, which I think a lot of the analytical models are there, but how safe and secure are they? Then that's where the trust comes in. Correct.
Even do you expect that Google, I have to trust Google for it because it's going to read every email of mine?
No, I'm not saying it. That's why I said public data sets which we open up, right? So I'm not even saying that we will operate based on whatever is our agreement with the customer. So frankly, I'm not saying that we are reading into that or whatever. I'm just saying what the government will have as their data sets, what we open out as public data sets, which we make available for the greater good, like say traffic pollution or the environmental one, because all of that will come into the mix as well. Because tomorrow, as a health insurer, you want to know whether you're living in Delhi, whether you're living in Noida, whether you're living in Gurugram, or whether you're living in Mumbai. I'm just saying hypothetically, even that will change parameters dramatically, right?
Just recently, I released a video of my car where I said that in Mumbai, in Goregaon, on 26th or 27th of December, the AQI was 607.
Right.
Whereas the official AQI is shown as 133,
Yes.
134. So,
So
there is a separate ball
yeah,
game.
so those are public data sets, I think, which we ensure. For example, today our forecasting of weather patterns is equal to or better than the most respected weather forecaster, which is in Europe. The Europe Observatory for weather. Our forecast 15-day forecast matches that.
Is it? Well, we always thought we always have memes about it because whenever they announce a monsoon, it's always after the rain has fallen. And then the next 2 days, the schools are given a holiday and there's no rain at all.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of work which has happened there in the background, and that's something which we are already improving upon. So as I said, the infinite possibilities of AI, that also comes into the mix. That also comes into the mix. So my view is, all of that data is also going to be equally important.
Yeah.
So see, the challenge is when you look at it in isolation is when you end up making a decision, but it might not be the right decision. But when you take a look at a much broader view on this, I think that's where we can come and help the organizations also. That we have those data sets which we can immediately connect to and at least provide. We won't provide individual. I can't provide information about Ganesh to anyone. I'm not supposed to. But Ganesh, like 50 people in Goregaon, in wherever, that is a trend and cohort I can probably publish. And that doesn't convey anything about you, right? And that is the data set which then I can use and say, okay, I have, yes, all of these 40 plus people had the same, say, chronic inflammation or whatever. Maybe because that 10 days, AQI was quite bad or whatever.
Nice.
So that's where I think it's called GraphCast.
So, one question from a, I can say, humor point of view or serious point of view. Like we have been talking about JAM, last couple of years, right? So,
Which is Jandan,
Aadhaar and mobile. Okay, now mobile has become so asynchronous with the body that हाथ कट जाएगा चलेगा लेकिन mobile छूटना नहीं चाहिए. That's the reality of the all generations, including the 80 plus today. The challenge of global is called. Yeah.
So it's a 10-day showing specific humidity, about 30 kilometers above surface. So this entire thing has been, it's 10-day predictions, and this is the one. The high resolution forecast, it's the industry gold standard weather simulation system.
Oh,
So we are already more accurate than that and much faster.
super.
So my point is, the power and the knowledge on the AI side is essentially going to.
So are we going to be so dependent on mobile phone? Like our Digiyatra,
Yeah.
supposed to be where the face is the your passport, a face is supposed to be a boarding pass, let's say. If I don't have a mobile phone, I cannot cross any barrier.
Yeah, right.
But that is not how they actually designed it. Even if you read the policy document on that, which I have read, the Digiyatra का जो process है of the face match is supposed to be only the backup part of it, where the customer doesn't give consent. Okay, where he has to see the document, where the customer says, I don't want to give my face. That backup process is the main process today, actually speaking. Of course, we all talk high about Digiyatra. It's a nice thing to have. But as a process, it's not where it is supposed to be for various reasons, because integration has not happened. So I was just wondering, because recently I was traveling and my mobile phone was on 3 or 4%. My first phase to nikal gaya, main gate. Second phase, and I have entered inside without a boarding pass. Security, but they don't care. Security check because only the baggage. Okay, that the process is the same. And taken is probably the similar or higher. But afterwards, if I have to enter the flat and if my mobile phone conks off, then what happens? I don't know. So that day I was lucky. It was 2-3%. उसमें दिखा दिया, बच गया.
Yeah, but in that situation, typically, if you are authenticated by Aadhaar, that
Digiyatra is authenticated by Aadhaar.
exactly. Which is why I'm saying that the airport uses Digiyatra, right, or the Aadhaar authentication. if the airlines also use it at the step of
None of them are
flying,
using as of now, right?
yeah, I believe some of them are starting to integrate, is what I understand, but I don't know.
I have not seen any,
Yeah.
though it's in the official process which was supposed to be
Correct.
live as the first phase itself.
Correct. I believe maybe some of them like Indigo will slowly start doing that. But if that happens, then I think
That is supposed to happen. That is the original process. As I said, when I was reading the policy document of this, because incidentally my book talks about this thing.
I thought Bangalore Airport does it because Bangalore Airport, if you do a Digi Yatra at the beginning, all the way right up to the gate through Vistara, I don't need to show my boarding pass.
No, I traveled to Vistara. The final airline is there. You're still required to go in.
I mean, I thought
Check it. What they do is they ask you the mobile phone to show. You don't realize it.
No, in this,
They're asking you to show the mobile phone passport, and in fact, they also do a swipe to see the face sometimes.
if I remember correctly, I just have to stand in front of the face and then it allows it.
At the flight level,
At the
then
flight-
I have not seen that.
That's flight level, yeah.
Okay, that's great. Because even today, even the baggage part is not taken care of.
Yeah.
So even the moment the baggage comes
Yeah.
to the picture, the process is they give you
Correct.
boarding pass to you.
Correct. Baggage part is there, but if you're just normal at the gate, if you're not checked in anywhere, I mean, as long as you've done Digi Yatra and come in, then I of course, if you ask me, I think it happened only once.
Let's see though. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, it's a great technology. It's in place, we know. But what happens with the mobile phone? Mobile phones do not even survive 24 hours battery life.
Yes.
The best of phones, they may advertise anything on it. The reality is no longer that it doesn't give you the charge because of usage. We are heavily dependent on mobile phone for everything.
Yeah, so I think as we say, right, if we are able to keep one reference with us of the DigiLocker also, access to DigiLocker should be enough to prove the authenticity of the person, right? You don't need, I mean, DigiYatra is just one aspect of it, right?
Right.
If your mobile is gone, your access to DigiYatra is gone. As long as they can have access to your DigiLocker, or you can show your access to DigiLocker to a central screen.
Right, delay ho jayega.
But I'm just saying it's a situation where you don't have a mobile, right? So I'm thinking that I mean, of course, assuming you don't have physical copies, nothing, right? I'm sure somewhere your laptop will have a copy of the this thing or whatever it is, what do you call it, boarding pass or the ticket or whatever. So I don't think if you run out of everything, your laptop is out of battery,
I may not carry a laptop.
That's
I'm
what-
going for a wedding.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So in that situation, it's the airlines who probably will be
That was just out of syllabus.
integrating. Now, whether the government decides to make money on that, that's a different question. That we don't know. That's something which is quite.
Great. Thank you, Pala. I think it was a great conversation, and I could see the bigger picture, probably, and a lot of new learnings also for me. Nice to know. Thank you for your time
No.
and the value adds. So, it's a pleasure meeting
Thanks,
you. Always. Thank you.
Thanks.